Hello and welcome to this short presentation on influencing skills. This has been developed as part of a blended learning package on this subject, which also includes a full-day workshop and a downloadable ebook. You can use this presentation on its own, as an introduction before attending the workshop, or after the workshop as a review. You can use it to complement the ebook, or you can do all three parts of the training in whichever order works best for you. Let's take a moment to outline how this webinar is structured. You can work through the topics just by running from start to finish. Alternatively, you can work through in your own time, pausing as you need to. You may want to have a pen and paper handy to make notes as you go along. So during this presentation, we're going to cover what is influencing and how might it work for you, an introduction to some influencing styles, different ways to build rapport, understanding the stakeholders who you're going to be working with, and what to do when you come across resistance. John Hancock, an American 18th century politician who signed the Declaration of Independence, said, "The greatest ability in business is to get along with others and to influence their actions." Influencing is a core managerial skill. Imagine being a financial controller who was unable to stop your CEO from spending money, or a brilliant human resources manager who was unable to persuade other managers to follow the protocols when recruiting. In fact, influencing at work can include a whole host of areas that you may need to address. For example, supposing you need to ask your boss for a pay rise, deal with a team member who is underperforming, or persuade a work colleague to help you with a project. Influencing is also a core life skill. Imagine you need to persuade a child to go to bed, or talk to a teenager about their behaviour, or even negotiate on the price of a new car. In all of these activities, the different parties are likely to have strong and often opposing views, and your role is to get agreement. Many of the negotiations we carry out on a day-to-day basis are actually quite small, and our ability to influence can have a real impact on the outcome. So what do we actually mean by influencing? Well, influencing means looking at how people feel, sensing how they feel, and understanding their position. It's about creating common ground and having clear messages. It's also about building consensus, and we'll look at that a bit later when we look at building rapport. It's also being very clear about the outcomes that you want and how you're going to achieve them. On the other side, influencing does not mean not being prepared to budge. You've got to be able to move as much as you expect the other person to. Nor does it mean ignoring other people's feelings. They're just as important as yours. You can't just rely purely on facts and figures, although they are very important, and we'll look at that again later. It also is not about making assumptions. You can't just rely on assumptions about how you feel or how you think somebody else feels. And you must make sure that you are clear in what you say, having clear outcomes. When we talk about influencing, some people feel that the whole concept is unethical. So let's get straight what we mean. We don't mean encouraging someone to do something illegal or be manipulative and go behind someone's back. We don't want them to do something that will potentially cause them harm, with or without their knowledge, or do something that might directly or indirectly harm others. What we do mean is that any influence we bring to bear needs to be accountable, open and respectful. We need to keep these values in mind. So we are accountable for our actions and the decisions we make, and we work as a team to support one another. We listen to one another and respect one another's points of view, and we challenge one another respectfully and constructively and work together to resolve issues. And we treat everyone with courtesy, fairness and transparency. Before you decide where you want to use your influence, you need to identify your desired outcome. A desired outcome is about taking the facts and the figures and all the wants and needs and working out what you actually want to achieve as a result of that. Identifying your desired outcome is important, as otherwise you may try to use your influence to achieve the wrong goal. It is easy to be distracted and to go off at a tangent. So Angie wanted a wider distribution list for the report she'd written, so that everyone knew the problem. But she decided that her desired outcome was to have immediate action taken now, and get preventative action taken in the future. She had all the evidence she needed in the report. So she needed immediately for Jake and Marjorie, her colleagues, to see the report and to take action from there. So her action was to ensure that Jake and Marjorie saw the report immediately, and a wider distribution was set up for later. She narrowed down her desired outcome and used her influence to achieve it. Let's look at some influencing styles. Let's start with the push style. Now, the push style is about making proposals and counter-proposals and offering ideas and suggestions. It allows you to give reasons, especially when disagreeing, and acknowledge and build on ideas and proposals of others. You can express your feelings as feedback and state your expectations and your needs. It also allows you to describe rewards and consequences. On the other side, we have the pull style. This is about seeking information, testing understanding. Here you can use open and warm non-verbal behaviour. Share your thoughts, feelings and concerns and highlight what you have in common. With a pull style, you often describe a shared future and explore benefits and consequences. Most people have a natural inclination toward one or the other. However, to best utilise these influencing styles effectively, you should consider the strengths and weaknesses of each, and when to use them to your full advantage. The strength of a pull influencing style is that it rests on information sharing in a non-adversarial fashion that is respectful and strengthens relationships. However, the drawbacks of this style are that it's not direct and can be seen as weak and manipulative. On the other hand, a push influencing style is strong because it imparts knowledge in a very direct and quick fashion. But its weaknesses are that it can be perceived as threatening and leaves a person no choice in the matter. The important thing to remember about these influencing styles is that each has its place in your arsenal of skills. When you need a quick answer or know the person you are influencing is very direct, a push style is preferable. However, when you're trying to gain information or test whether your goal is a possibility or to build buy-in, you should use a pull approach. It's important to remember that influencing others is based on choosing the right tactic for the particular situation, and then having the skill to use it in the right way. The push and pull styles can be broken down further into 4 other styles. First of all, on the pull side, there is what we call attracting and bridging, and on the push side, there is persuading and asserting. So let's look at the first of these, persuading. Persuading relies on reason and logical argument. It appeals to the head, not to the heart, and because of this, it is a style that is most effective when people are relatively unemotional or in control of their emotions. It will not be effective if people perceive you as untrustworthy or working against their own goals. An assertive style is the most direct style of influencing. It involves setting out clear expectations, which may be supported by the offer of rewards for achieving them. This style is effective when compliance is sufficient and you don't require emotional commitment. An attracting style often involves offering a vision of a better future and generating energy and commitment towards fulfillment of that vision. The attracting style relies on generating an emotional response, appealing to people's idealism and optimism, and may be short on specific detail. The bridging style involves empathizing, listening and understanding the other person's point of view, before exploring scope for building bridges and finding common ground. This style focuses on building relationships and then working hard together to achieve shared goals. What about identifying the other party's objectives then? There are a number of questions that we need to ask. What do they want to achieve? Why do they want to achieve that? And are they willing to negotiate? To succeed in negotiations is often the case you need to know as much about the other party and what they want to achieve. An investigation in advance will help you to devise your strategy. So why are stakeholders important? Well, they all come to a discussion with their own point of view and approach. Influencing someone is very often about persuading them that it's in their best interest, and of course this needs to be done in an ethical way. But it is worth considering, what have they got to lose and what have they got to gain? Although it's obvious to you, it may not be obvious to them. The best way to influence someone is to make them believe that they thought of it. Another thought is, are you looking for the credit or do you just want to make something happen? And then you need to think about putting yourself in their shoes. Stephen Covey, in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, says, "Seek first to understand and then to be understood." This is very good advice. Putting yourself in the shoes of the other person can help you have an insight into how they might be seeing things. A way of doing this is something called perceptual positions. Using perceptual positions, we vividly imagine what a situation is like from another person's perspective, and then from outside the situation altogether. The 3 positions are shown on the next slide. So, start by thinking of a time when you were trying to persuade somebody to do something, maybe to get a child to tidy up their room or a colleague at work to do something for you. This is called standing in your own shoes. What did you say? What did you do? How did it feel? What could you see? What could you hear? Now put yourself in the position of the person you're trying to influence. Standing in others' shoes. Ask the same questions. What did you say? What did you do? How did it feel? What could you see? What could you hear? Finally, imagine you're a fly on the wall. This is standing in the observer's shoes. Again, ask yourself the questions. How did it feel? What could you see? What could you hear? Jot down on a bit of paper what you've learnt from this exercise. Now let's look at building relationships. What is rapport? Rapport can be defined as a state of mutual understanding and harmonious communication. It can also be described as when 2 people feel they're on the same wavelength. It's one of the fundamental blocks in building and maintaining good relationships. Building rapport before negotiating or trying to influence someone helps create understanding where others are coming from and their hot buttons. It makes the whole process easier and helps you to build empathy. There are a variety of different behaviours you need when building rapport, but I just want to talk briefly about 3 of them. The first is genuinely listening. Actually listening hard to what the other person is saying and making sure that you've understood it. The second is to smile. We all react to somebody who is smiling, and it's much easier to build a relationship. And the third is to use open postures and gestures to show that you are open to suggestions. We talk about these a lot more both on the course and in the ebook. If you want to use the push style of assertiveness, then it's worth thinking about what assertiveness actually means. Now, it's not aggressive behaviour. Aggressive behaviour is about wanting to control. Everything is your way or no way. is often characterised by loud behaviour. Passive behaviour, on the other hand, is often characterised as giving in to others easily, being quiet and having low self-esteem. Assertive behaviour is about keeping the balance. So here we're talking about assertiveness, where assertiveness is about balancing your needs with the needs of other people. It involves having respect for yourself as well as for others. And assertiveness will allow you to demonstrate thinking and problem-solving behaviour. It allows you to listen and respect others' points of view, and to ask for what you need without stepping on other people. It enables you to use the I word, so I would like this to happen, or I feel this, when you demonstrate this type of behaviour. And it enables you to aim for win-win outcomes, where everybody gains something. Being assertive means that you are likely to be far more influential in your relationships with other people than if you were either aggressive or passive. There are times when you need to use your assertive skills to push to achieve what you want. So you may need to be persuasive and use logic and reasoned argument. Or you may need to be direct, state your expectations or use rewards. A common situation where you need to do this might be in a meeting. When you are preparing for a meeting, it's worth considering: where are you going to sit? Do you have all the information you need? Is the issue you wish to discuss on the agenda? As near the top as possible if you need time to discuss it. And who is likely to be an ally? Once in the meeting, you might consider, to get your point across, you want to use a technique such as the broken record, i.e. you repeat yourself until you know that your point has been heard. Provided this is done in a respectful way, it can be very effective. Successful influencing does require the push skill of giving feedback. There will be times when you need to exert your influence on someone to make things happen more effectively. Remember, feedback should never be criticism. The key difference between the two is that feedback describes fact, whereas criticism gives an opinion. But without feedback, a team member has no idea whether his or her performance is good or not, and how it could improve. And being able to give skillful feedback to members of your team is one of the simplest ways to influence people for future success. So here are a few tips. Make sure that you emphasise the positive. And focus on specifics, making sure that you have the facts to back you up. Describe the impact of the behaviour that you see on others. This becomes much more powerful. And make sure you do things when you are calm. If you have negative feedback, keep it private. You also need to be prepared to receive feedback. Being able to receive feedback is very important, so remember to be open to comments from other people. And don't forget to show the other person you've understood, and ask for the facts. Ask them for suggestions on how you could improve. And also agree which are the next steps that need to be taken to move forward. Being able to receive feedback without flying off the handle shows that you have the courage to stay open to what others think. People who are good at influencing others and are good at receiving feedback, and it puts them in a good light when they need to give feedback to others. So what can go wrong? Well, influencing is an art, not a science, and there are a range of things that can go wrong. You can not be clear about your objectives or your desired outcomes. You don't have all the facts to hand, making it difficult to make decisions or answer questions. You find it difficult to create rapport and empathy with the person you wish to influence. Perhaps you haven't listened to the real requirements and reacted to those. Sometimes you need to be able to bargain, and some people find that a problem. Or you might be adopting a win-lose position. And forgetting to gain agreement on everything in the project at the end can sometimes lead to misunderstandings later. So what can you do when you come across resistance? Well, first of all, you need to draw attention to the impasse, to the roadblock, and bring it actually out into the open, and to identify areas where you do have agreement. From there, you can ask for ideas on moving forward. See what other people have to suggest. You can talk about feelings, both your own and other people's. And you need to recheck your assumptions and theirs and make sure that everybody has the facts and figures that they actually need. From this point, you need to look at any blocking tactics that are being put into place. You may need to break these down into smaller chunks and tackle each one on its own. So when you're dealing with the resistance, what else can you do? Well, first of all, make sure you have stepped back and listened. Really listen to what the other person has to say. Think about the styles you've been using, and if necessary, switch styles. You may, for example, have been using a push style, which sometimes can cause resistance, so you may need to switch for a while to a pull style to get somebody on board. And finally, you can use your power base. We talk more about power bases in the ebook and on the workshop. So what next? We suggest that you attend the workshop to get more detail and the opportunity to discuss and ask questions. We'll also run a series of exercises on the workshop so you can try things out. You also can look at the ebook and use the ebook to build your understanding and refer back to over time. Thank you for listening.